What then are the lines of Karma Yoga laid down by the Gita? Its key principle, its spiritual method can be summed up as the union of two largest and highest states of or powers of consciousness, equality and oneness. The kernel of its method is an unreserved acceptance of the divine in our life as in our inner self and spirit. An inner renunciation of personal desire leads to equality, accomplishes our total surrender to the divine, supports a delivery from dividing ego, which brings us oneness. But this must be a oneness in dynamic force and not only in static peace or inactive beatitude. The Gita promises us freedom for the spirit even in the midst of quirks and the full energies of nature if we accept subjection of our whole being to that which is higher than the separating and limiting ego. It proposes an integral dynamic activity founded on a still passivity, a largest possible action irrevocably based on an immobile calm is its secret, free expression out of a supreme inward silence.
Yeah, very small para, but full of pregnant words. So we'll have to bring out everything. By the way, Nandini, you read this para?
Yes,
Okay, very well read. Okay, now
thank you.
we'll have a look at the details because we have to bring out each the pregnant sense of each word that he uses. I'm going through each sentence. Okay, it's very interesting para. The Karma Yoga method, what he said. What then are the lines of Karma Yoga laid down by the Gita? Note, okay? Because in Karma Yoga of Sri Aurobindo, there will be a slight difference, okay? The slight difference will be definitely equality and oneness will be there, but Sri Aurobindo adds the most potent power of surrender. Okay? The, the Gita also has surrender. Sarva dharman parityajya mameva sharanam vraja. But in Sri Aurobindo, it becomes a key method. Whereas, so this is what then are the lines of karma yoga. Its key principle, its spiritual method can be summed up as the union of two largest and highest states of powers of consciousness. They are powers of consciousness, equality and oneness. So these are very vague words, equality and oneness. So what is meant by equality? Normally when we speak of equality, all the citizens have equal rights and everybody is same. There should be no differences between religion and sex and community and clan, all these things. This is equality. But no, this equality refers to psychological equality. In other words, whatever is coming to you from the outside world, you remain absolutely unmoved. That is the equality that is talking about. In your own consciousness, normally, when you get a pleasant experience, there is exhilaration, there is happiness. And when there is something which is not very pleasant, it becomes unhappiness. So there is a movement to the right and the left. There is a movement. But you are, when you are in a perfect equality, you are neither moved by the pleasant things nor by the unpleasant things. You are unmoved, like a boy in the sea. Okay, boy means buoy. You know, it's a floating metal object which remains steady. Whatever the waves are there and all that, it will remain exactly steady. That's exactly what you will. In other words, if you want to, why it is necessary, you should not be a plaything subject to the forces of the world. You should be yourself. You should be situated in your own being. Okay, that is the whole important. Atmastha. You have to be in your own, settled and firmly settled in your own self, and unmoved by the forces of the physical world. This is the equality that is talking about. And oneness. Oneness is to see the divine everywhere if you want. You can. Not that you stop seeing the differences. That would be disastrous in the physical world. If I can't make out the difference between the 7 or 8 of you there who are on the and I can't make out the difference, then it will be a disaster. How will I deal with the physical world? So oneness means seeing the divine presence everywhere and seeing the essential oneness of everything. There may be differences of form, but there is no difference in the essentiality. Again and again, I go on repeating this essentiality and the outer form, like the water, ice, and water vapor. Essentially the same, yet three different forms. Okay, so even God and matter, they are also only differences in form. There is no difference in the essence. The divine is there even in matter. So that is equality and oneness. Now, the kernel of its method, the kernel, the seed, okay, the nut that is there in fruits. The kernel, because the nut always holds all the nutrition which will be necessary for the seed to climb up and manifest what is inside it. So that's a kernel, the essence. The kernel of its method is an unreserved acceptance of the divine in our life, as in our inner self and spirit, not only inwardly but even in the outward actions. Very often we will see that you feel yourself, I am surrendered to the mother, I am willing to listen to whatever she is telling me to do. But she is not telling you physically, she is telling you psychologically through your own body mind life. So you often mistake the instructions being given to you and you feel your own will and your own ego come into the picture. So that is not. That's why Swami uses the word unreserved acceptance of the divine in our life as in our inner self and spirit. Inwardly also you must be fully obedient to them and outwardly also in the physical. In fact, in ashram, many people used to the work given to the sadhaks physically also they had to obey completely what mother is saying. Okay, sometimes they used to feel that what is this, maybe this is not okay. I remember one particular incident which is very interesting and I just mention it to you. How there was a judge, okay, who came, and this judge was, you know, judges very often have an inflated opinion of themselves. They feel that you are sitting in judgment over all the, so you are in a very important position and you are, egoism usually rises. Okay, so this man came to the ashram, he was a devotee, he came from Bihar. And mother gave him what work? He thought that he will get some intellectual work, proofreading or doing something or editing or something. Mother told him go to the dining hall and sit and wipe the vessels which have been washed. Okay, so he felt a little hurt. What is this? I am a judge and I am being asked to do menial work. I am being asked to wipe dishes. Is that my work? Anyway, so he went to the dining hall and sat down and started doing the work that was allotted to him. Suddenly, in the dish that he was wiping, he saw Srimno's and mother's image. Okay? Then he realized the importance of the obedience to the divine, physical obedience. So that's what Srimno is pointing out here. Okay, in our life, that means physically, as in our inner self, and psychologically as well as physically. Okay, an inner renunciation of personal desire leads to equality. So if you inner renunciation, if you do of personal desire, leads to equality. You become absolutely, because you have no desire. It is desire that pulls you one way, or the opposite of desire, repulsion, that pulls you the other way. So neither you have desire nor you have repulsion. You are absolutely calm and quiet. It gives you equality. Accomplishes our total surrender to the divine. Supports a delivery from dividing ego, which brings us oneness. So surrender to the divine will give you equality. Removal of the ego will give you oneness. But this must be a oneness in dynamic force and not only in static peace. This you have to understand very clearly what he's saying, because as we speak usually of three levels. The first level is your body mind life. You are identified with your body mind life, and this is what you think you are. Even intellectually, if you know that you are not the body mind life and you are the soul, and you are the psychic being and the self, its intellectual knowledge is not enough. Okay. So when you really come to know that, Okay, that's the second level. But the spiritual levels of consciousness, that's the second level. Higher mind, relevant mind, intuitive mind, over mind. According to Srivamdo, four levels only he has divided. Then the third level is the super mind, which is the which has Mother has been able to break down in 1956. But these are the three levels that he's talking about. So if you go from the first level to the second level, you do get knowledge and you do get so, but that need not necessarily be active. It can be inactive. In other words, you are in a pure consciousness, but in the physical world, you are not able to put that into practice. Okay? You can't apply that theoretical knowledge into the physical world. So that's what it means here. But this must be a oneness in dynamic force. In other words, you must be able to use that knowledge and that power which you are experiencing in the second level up to the ground floor. You have to use it in life. Okay? Not only a static peace or inactive beatitude. So static peace is normally the aim of Jnana Yoga. And inactive beatitude, you have got tremendous love for the divine and you are getting a lot of ananda, but it is not translating into the physical world's obedience to the divine and removal of the imperfections in the physical body. So, to do that really successfully, you have to go to the third level, okay, the supermind. So this is what Sridhar is going on stressing. It is not enough to have a spiritual consciousness, you must have a supramental consciousness, third level. Okay, so inactive. So beatitude can be inactive. In other words, you feel the beatitude, you feel the love and the joy, but you are not able to put it powerfully into action. Your desires will continue to remain, your bad habits may continue to remain. That's what I mean by inactive. Okay, the Gita promises us freedom from the spirit, even in the midst of works. That's what the Gita is wanting you to do. You have to be free even when you are in the physical world doing action and the full energies of nature. If we accept subjection of our whole being to that which is higher than the separating and limiting ego. So that which is higher than separating ego, second level, third level. So if Gita is saying that you can go to the third level of the Purushottama, what is the difference between Sri Aurobindo yoga and Gita's yoga? The Gita is saying at the individual level, okay, yes, you can be in the physical world and individually you may be perfect, you may be able to apply the knowledge and power and love that you are experiencing in other planes of consciousness in the physical world. So what's the difference between Swayambhu? Swayambhu is not satisfied only with individual liberation and individual perfection. He wants even the physical world to change. That's the difference. Okay? So that's one more step. Okay, you have to go beyond. Even the world must change. Why only you must change? Everybody else also must benefit from what the universal nature, the evolution in universal nature must help everybody. That is the one further step that Swayambhu takes regard to the the Gita. That's the difference. Huh? Clear, na? The Gita promises freedom from the spirit, even in the midst of works and the full energies of nature. Even when you are working fully, you remember the divine and your nature also becomes divine. But individually, it is limited to your own self. If we accept subjection of our whole being to that which is higher than the separating and limiting ego. Only if you accept subjection of the whole being, not the word whole being. It's not only the mind or the soul. It's your vital and body also which must obey that. To that which is higher than the separating and limiting. It proposes, it is what? Gita. The Gita proposes an integral dynamic activity founded on a still passivity. When you are in a calm, quiet mood, then your decision to act in the physical world will be very, very considered and very correct. But if you are in a disturbed condition, it cannot end in a correct action in the world. So it proposes an an integral dynamic activity. Yes, your body mind life is acting fully in the, but it is founded on a still passivity. The upper layer of your consciousness is calm and quiet, and in the physical world, you are acting based on that silence. A largest possible action, irrevocably based on the immobile calm is its spirit. Note the word irrevocably. In other words, permanently. It is not enough to have an experience and then after an experience of 1 or 2 days, you drop back into your old nature. No, it has to be irrevocable. That means permanently stationed in that higher consciousness. That's the implication of the word irrevocable. You cannot go below that level anymore. Okay. When you speak of realizations, Sriramdo realized the overmind consciousness in 19, when was the 1926, 24th November. He realized the overmind consciousness. What does that mean? Realized. It means now his consciousness cannot drop below that level. It's not an experience anymore. It's a realization. Okay. So that's what the word irrevocable suggests. So, a largest possible action. Nothing must be eliminated as an action. There are many who say, don't do this action, don't do that action. Okay, it disturbs you. But largest possible, every action is possible in a spiritual life. Irrevocably based on an immobile calm is its secret. Free expression out of a supreme inward silence. In the upper layers of a consciousness, total silence. But this silence is not a negative silence. It's a charged poise of power. Okay? Like the water behind the dam. It is calm and quiet, but doesn't say that there is no power. It is full of power waiting to pounce into action. Okay? So, like the starting point of a race, 100-meter race. The judge says on your marks, and you go on your marks and you get set. But you are absolutely without action. That doesn't mean to say that you are powerless. The power is there waiting to go into action. Okay, so that is the silence. It's a positive silence, it's not a negative silence. Free expression out of a supreme inward silence. Okay? So this is what he's saying. So Gita's Karma Yoga, you have to get equality and oneness. And how do you get that? Surrender will give you equality and removal of ego will give you oneness. Okay? We read the next para.
I'll read.
Yes, do that.
All things, all things here are the one and undivisible, eternal, transcendent, and cosmic Brahman that is in its seeming divided in things and creatures. In seeming only, for in truth it is always one and equal in all things and creatures, and the division is only a phenomenon of the surface. As long as we live in the ignorant seeming, we are the ego and are subject to the modes of nature, enslaved to appearances, bound to the dualities, tossed between good and evil, sin and virtue, grief and joy, pain and pleasure, good fortune and ill fortune, success and failure. We follow helplessly the iron or guilt and iron round of the wheel of Maya. At best, we have only the poor relative freedom, which by us is ignorantly called free will. But that is at bottom illusory, since it is the modes of nature that express themselves through our personal will. It is force of nature, grasping us, ungrasped by us, that determines what we shall will and how we shall will it. Nature, not an independent ego, chooses what object we shall seek, whether by reasoned will or unreflecting impulse at any moment of our existence. If, on the contrary, we live in the unifying reality of the Brahman, then we go beyond the ego and overstep nature. For then we get back to our true self and become the spirit. In the spirit, we are above the impulsion of nature, superior to her modes and forces. Attaining to a perfect equality in the soul, mind, and heart, we realize our true self of oneness, one with all beings, one too with that which expresses itself in them and in all that we see and experience. This equality and this oneness are the indispensable twin foundation we must lay down for a divine being, a divine consciousness, a divine action. Not one with all, we are spiritually not divine. Not equal soul to all things, happenings, and creatures, we cannot see spiritually, cannot know divinely, cannot feel divinely towards others. The supreme power, the one eternal and infinite, is equal to all things and to all beings. And because it is equal, it can act with an absolute wisdom according to the truth of its work and its force, and according to the truth of each thing and of every creature.
Big para, one page, okay, and he has gone into very detail to explain the dualities. The idea of the dualities, we must have a clear idea, and we will go into that. Okay, so you have to get rid of the dualities. So, what are the dualities? Very briefly, before we discuss the chapter, when the divine is manifesting himself, okay, like the seed brings out whatever is latent in it and becomes a tree. So the divine is a seed and he brings out of himself whatever is there in himself in a hidden form, and that's a universe. And the universe again produces the multiplicity of the universe in the universe. It produces multiplicity. It's a three-stage production. First, the divine oozes out of himself his such powers of Satchidananda, and the universe is created, and the universe again is creating the all the multiplicities in the physical world. In other words, one becoming the many. But don't forget that the principle of infinite variation is there. That which is finite, that which is one becomes the many, but it is based on a infinite freedom. In other words, everything possible becomes manifested in the physical world and equally has a right to exist. In other words, you end up with opposites. Okay? If light is to be manifested, the opposite of light also has got the right to manifest, so it becomes the darkness. If generosity is to be produced by the divine, it also creates miserliness. Okay? If gentleness is to be created in the divine, the opposite of gentleness also has to be created because it is free creation. So cruelty comes into the picture. Okay. So this is, if good comes, then bad also comes in. If sin comes in, virtue, success, failure, all these are the dualities. And remember, in the physical world, all the dualities are fundamental. Okay. But they are not really opposites, they are different shades of the same thing. That's the vision that changes. Okay, so at our level we are seeing opposites, and the opposites are fully valid. We have to embrace the good, we have to eliminate the bad. We have to embrace light, we have to eliminate the darkness. We have to enlarge ourselves and get rid of narrowing egoness. Okay, so this is the what it's saying. Basically, these are the dualities. So now we go to each sentence. By the way, who read just now? Tarika, you read?
Yes.
Ah, I could recognize the voice, but I wasn't 100% sure. Okay. All things here are the one and indivisible, eternal, transcendent, and cosmic Brahman that is in its seemingly divided things and creatures. There is a oneness which seems to be divided into many, many things. It's like the Shankara's image of the one moon shining in troubled waters, and the troubled waters seem to give you many moons. Okay, so because there is movement in the physical world, and movement makes you feel that there is multiplicity. Whenever there is movement, it's a distorting element. So you see the multiplicity. But the multiplicity is not real. It's only, it's a surface phenomenon. Okay, that's what he will explain later on also. Okay. All things here are the one and indivisible, eternal, indivisible, okay, eternal, transcendent, and cosmic Brahman that is in its seeming divided in things and creatures. We can understand this phenomena also in another with another image. Okay, our we are experiencing the physical world through our senses, and the senses are defective. Okay, very clearly defective, because I can't see, I can see only the visual range. I can't see infrared and ultraviolet. In other words, I am not seeing the reality. I am seeing only a part of the reality. So I can compare that to, I am, when I am born, nature has given me eyesight, but my eyesight is like broken specks. Okay? So I see division. Okay. So when I go to a higher level of consciousness, my broken specks become clear specks. And now I see the oneness. Okay. So this is, you can also explain in this way. There is no brokenness in the physical world really. It's our instrumentation that is making us see the brokenness. That's why it is seeming. It's not real. Okay.
But Rangada, when we see cruelty, it
Yeah.
is not cruelty or what?
It is not cruelty in, if you are in the higher level of consciousness. But if you are in the lower level, I told you just now that they're all valid. Okay. So in the physical world, you have to go to gentleness and reject cruelty, because it is at whichever level of consciousness you are, that is valid for you. Okay. The whole thing is based on relativity. At each level of consciousness, there is a relative truth. Okay. This you have to understand very clearly. Okay. In fact, it goes so far as to even Einstein is saying even in the physical world there is relativity. Uh-huh. I gave you some examples of relativity in the physical world. Now, if I keep a pencil at eye level, absolutely horizontal, I will see only one dot. But if I go slightly higher up and not horizontally, I'm not seeing, I'm seeing now more, I see a line. So how is it possible for me to see something in two different ways? Because I'm changing my position. So it depends from which level of consciousness you are seeing, and you will see things in a different way. But when I am seeing the point, it is valid for me. So cruelty is very, very valid, and valid in this sense that it's a fact. I have to get rid of it. But when I go to the another level of consciousness, it doesn't seem to be as much of a fact as it seemed at the lower level. That is what truth you have to understand. Relativity is an absolute principle everywhere, not only in the physical world, even spiritual world. The only relativity when it disappears completely is the highest. The supermind, all relativity ceases, and there's only an absoluteness, only in the supermind. Even in the overmind consciousness, there is relativity. Okay? Values are all relative, nothing is absolute.
So when I see cruelty at this level, it is cruelty. When I go up, it doesn't. It is not cruelty. It would be cruelty, right? Or it won't be cruelty.
No, it won't be cruelty. You are seeing it in a different way. You are seeing it as a, okay, I'll give you another instance so you'll understand. Okay? Gentleness is a soft breeze. Okay? You feel it on your cheek and you love it. Okay? That is a soft breeze. Now, cruelty is a hard wind. Is there a difference between a soft breeze and a hard wind? No, it's air moving. Okay?
No, there is a difference. The speed is a difference.
No, so that's a relativity. That's exactly. So when you go to the higher level, you see it as, oh, it is not, it is wind that is changing its intensity. That's all. So you see cruelty as a form of the force of which is behind gentleness as well as cruelty. You start seeing the form and not the they're not the apparent cause. Okay, you follow?
Yes,
Not
So it is like
fully.
a.
but it is. I mean, very difficult to accept.
May I say something?
Go ahead.
Um, I think it was Pavitra's room that some senior sadhak
Ah,
went to clean and sweep his room. And
okay,
then he found a cockroach up there. And he
okay,
was about to kill that cockroach. And
yes,
Pavitra said, no, 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 don't kill it, don't kill it, leave it alone and just throw it out.
okay.
So then he had to do that. Then he went to mother and reported that
Ah,
there was a cockroach and he didn't allow me to kill it. So what should I have done? Mother said, no, you should have killed it. So
there
that
you
is cruelty,
are.
but in a different sense,
Hmm.
to kill a cockroach.
The cruelty comes because when we feel it's cruelty. But when something is there which needs to be eliminated without any reaction, that's the whole point of equality and oneness. When you are in an absolute condition of oneness and equality, there is no reaction in you. You start seeing the gentle breeze and the strong wind. It's only wind. You don't, you don't see the gentleness and the strongness. You see only the wind. It is here uh, blowing gently, and there it is blowing hard. That's all. Okay, like light and darkness, essentially the same. Okay, so this is what.
So
That's why.
Ranganath,
Yes, tell me.
it is like a sensitivity. If you are attached to something, then you feel so many things. If you are not attached, then you see the things with neutrality.
Absolutely, that's exactly the same thing. Attachment is when you are there is a reaction in you, but when there is no reaction in you, you are equal and oneness you see everywhere. There is no difference. So, in the physical world, you have to get rid of the cockroach. Okay, that's you have to get rid of the cockroach. Exactly.
But then cockroach also has some purpose, no? Why it is there?
Well, we are going deeper and deeper into subjects. The mind cannot. Yeah, but the cockroach also has got its own function in the world. In fact, you have to see what the function is. Okay, but it has got a function at the lower end. But for man, its function is it's not that
But
it help you.
but
Yeah.
No,
it
but
is
what
made
about
by the vital and it's not essential for us to pamper these lower vital beings.
Yeah, but mother, she said that you could have killed it. But if you are not wanting to kill it, it depends on the nature, your nature, and that. But you remain unaffected. If you remain unaffected, that's fine. There can be differences of temperament in the lower. That's the relativity we are talking about. Okay.
Yeah, so even killing mosquitoes, killing cockroaches, like you feel, yeah, these are pests. We should be killing them. But whether it is right or wrong, because you are born in a certain way and you are taught in a certain way, like Jainism, it doesn't allow to kill even a mosquito.
That's right. So there is
So,
a again we come back to the idea of relativity. Now in Jainism, they are not considering relativity. They are considering the principle of killing as an absolute. Okay. It is not absolutely correct to say that. But they believe in that. And then if they believe and they want to practice it, who is there to say no to them? Okay. So it is true, but it's an exaggeration. Okay. It's an exaggeration. In fact, I tell you, one day, Niruddha and Champakla, they were all sitting, and Srimda was there, and Niruddha suddenly clapped his hands because he was trying to kill a mosquito. Srimda turned to him and asked him, "Did you get it?" No disapproval. Okay, so it depends. Okay, how you are seeing things. I know. Just now, I think Shilpa told me it's very difficult to accept. Okay,
mm,
it's true. It's very difficult to accept when you are in the consciousness of your ego and you are identified with your body, mind, life. The values there are absolutely valid for you. Therefore, it's very difficult. But the Gita is saying exactly don't get stuck at your lower level of level one. Go above, and then you will start seeing things in a different way altogether. Okay, that was the difference between Gandhi's ahimsa and also the Sri Aurobido's principle. Okay, when if someone hits you, you have the full power to hit back. Okay, so You don't subscribe it. Ahimsa is a relative principle. It's not an absolute principle at all. And to say that if the British police come and beat me, let them beat me, I don't mind, is maybe okay for him, but not for everybody. And if someone else retaliates and protects himself, he is equally right. I told you just now that there is all these are valid for you. It depends at which level you are and what you want to do. So it's a very difficult thing to understand, but if you try hard, you will understand the relativity of everything. Okay, the dualities are exactly that. When you go, in fact, that is what they say. You are dvandvatita. You go above the dualities. Okay, you are you go above the dualities. Oneness starts expressing itself. You see only the breeze. You don't see the gentleness and the hard wind. You don't. You see only the breeze. Okay, that's the oneness that you have to see. All your values will change altogether. Okay, that is the reason why sin and virtue are not recognized by the spiritual man. These are all mental ideas. Okay, they are seeing things through your broken specs. Change your specs and see oneness, you will have a totally different view of things, which will be valid at that level. But that which is valid at that level is not necessarily valid at this level. Okay. Otherwise, if you say that there is no difference between that, you will be in difficulty. You can't be a friend with a good man and a murderer. You have to distinguish between them. That's why I said it is valid. Okay? The dualities are valid at the lower level and you have to act accordingly. Okay? So, we have given the principle and the gist. Now you think about that. Okay? It will take some time to absorb it. But depending at which level you are, you see things in a different way. So, we can also give another example, which is slightly not very relevant, but still you can understand. The laws of one country, okay, the laws that obtain in India are not valid in America. The laws that obtain in Singapore are not valid in Sweden. Okay, I'll give you in Singapore, if you are caught with drugs, straight away they will hang you. Okay, death is the punishment for having drugs on you. Whether you are consuming or not is another matter. In Sweden, it is allowed because they say that freedom of the individual is the most important. If he wants to harm himself, who are we to stop him? We can't. So in Sweden, drugs are perfectly legal. You will see people sitting in the parks and all that and getting stoned. Stoned means absolutely like a stone. They are drugged. So this is the difference. So at each level, physical, vital, mental level is one. The spiritual level is another. The supramental level is another. Okay. At each level, your laws are different and the conditions also are different. Okay. This is a very important principle, and you have to think about it deeply and understand the reality of that. Okay. So, what's the time? 8:25. We've got 10 minutes. I'll go to the. We were discussing the dualities, now, so we go. So these dualities are only seeming, as you said. I tried to explain to you that your instruments of knowledge at the physical level are senses, and the senses are defective. Okay? I can't see the whole reality, I see only the big jaw range. I can't hear low decibel sounds which dogs can hear, and I can't hear high decibel sounds which dolphins and whales can hear, and even bats can hear, but I can't hear. Okay, so my senses are defective. I am seeing the physical world in a very defective way, so I can express that through broken spectacles. Okay, so change that. Change your subtle, gross senses into subtle senses. When you go into the spiritual planes of consciousness, number 2 level, second level, you start using different subtle senses. The subtle senses are far more pure and far more potent than the physical senses. So there you don't see sin and virtue, good and bad. You start seeing them as different intensities of the same principles. Okay? Now, we read further. As long as we live in the ignorant seeming, we are the ego and the subject to the modes of nature. I can give another example also. When we're talking of levels, na? So when there's a level of water and there's a level of air, okay? Now, there are two different mediums. Take a stick and put it in water which is absolutely calm and quiet. What do you see? You feel that the stick is bent. Okay? If you look carefully, you will see, "Arey, the stick looks bent." But you take it out, there is no bend. So, when you go from one level to another level, there is a seeming distortion that occurs. So that's another way of looking at things. That seeming distortion disappears when I pull the stick out of the water and see it only in the air. There is no distortion. There is no bend. Okay. So that is another way of understanding this relativity. Okay. So as long as you live in the ignorant seeming, you are subject to your gross senses. Okay? We are the ego, and the ego is the broken specks, and are subject to the modes of nature. What are the modes of nature? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Okay? That's a different subject altogether. We'll discuss it when the occasion arises. Sattva corresponds to the principle of harmony, right, okay, lightness, seeing the right things. That is the balance. That is sattva. Rajas is the principle of action, movement, energy, power, okay, which is the vital. And tamas is the principle of darkness, but also stability, unwillingness to change. That also is not absolutely negative. Okay, it's got a very big function to play in the physical world. Tamas. Okay, well, but these are the modes of nature. Okay, gunas. They call them gunas in Sanskrit. Enslaved to appearances. That's what we are. Bound to the dualities, tossed between good and evil, sin and virtue, grief and joy, pain and pleasure, good fortune and ill fortune, success and failure, we follow helplessly the iron or guilt or iron round of the wheel of Maya. The wheel of Maya is turning in the physical world. So, Maya is made up of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, these three. And that is making you see things in a different way, and you are subject to the iron or guilt. Okay? So, this is very interesting. Tamas is that which binds you to darkness and laziness and inactivity. And Ramakrishna calls it an iron chain. Okay? You are bound to this iron chain. You are a prisoner, you don't even realize it, but you are. Your body is a iron chain which binds you. But there are many people who live more in the vital than in the body, okay? But more in the vital. Desire, action, movement, very active people, okay? Politicians and those who are moved to idealism, they want to achieve things, but it's all based on the vital. That also is something that binds you, okay? And that Ramakrishna calls it a silver chain. It's a chain, but it is slightly better than the iron chain, okay? Because you're moving. In the other one, you're not even moving. Okay? Then there is the mind, okay, with its attempt toward knowledge, attempt at light. But that also is a chain. That's a golden chain. So these three, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, are all chains. But you have to go from the lowest to the middle to the highest. And then you have to go even beyond the mental, which is the golden chain. You don't want any chains at all. You want to be free. So when you go to the higher levels, the second level of the spiritual planes of consciousness, you are free. That's why mukti, liberation. Okay? And enslavement disappears. You are free. Okay? Now, at best, we have only the poor relative freedom, which by us is ignorantly called free will. We all feel that we are absolutely free to do what we are saying. But that is an illusion. Your idea that you are free is an illusion. Okay, and that you realize when you lose your identification with body, mind, life and go to the second level of the spiritual planes of consciousness. You see that you are not doing anything, you are not the doer, but nature is doing everything. So the ego disappears and you feel that, oh, now I realize I was a prisoner there, but now I am not a prisoner, but I have no power. I am just watching helplessly what is happening below. And I am very, very happy because I am not being moved about like a chess pawn by other forces. I am free now. I can do, I am free. But still, there is no power. Huh? That's why Swami is using the word earlier. He has used inactive beatitude or static peace. You are in the spiritual planes of consciousness, you have peace. But unfortunately, it is static. That peace cannot translate into the physical world very easily. Okay. So you should not have only static peace and inactive beatitude. You should have active beatitude and dynamic peace. And that is available at the third level. Okay? That's what he's saying. Where we got 2 minutes more. I read one more sentence. At best, we have only the poor relative freedom by which we ignorantly we call free will. But that is at bottom illusory. Why is Sridhar saying at bottom only? Because even when you feel that you have a free will, it is important. It is a mistake, but it is important because if there is no free will, you will not be able to push yourself. If you accept the fact that everything is determined by you, determined for you, and not by yourself, you won't act. You will say, why should I do anything? Everything is being done for me. So, even this illusion of free will is a very important mechanism of nature, Sridhar says. Okay? It has its value. It is wrong, but it has got a value. Again, relative. It may be wrong, but it's got a value. Okay? Remember Sridhar's expression of this? Ego was the helper, ego becomes the bar. Okay? The mind was a helper, but when you want to go above, the mind is a bar. So everything is relative. Link it to that idea, then you will see everything will fall into place. Okay? So, but that is at bottom illusory, since it is the modes of nature that express themselves through our personal will. It is the force of nature grasping us, ungrasped by us, that determines what we shall will and how we shall will it. Even our so called free will is being determined by the nature, body, mind, life. Okay? We are prisoners of body, mind, life, of sattva, rajas, tamas. Nature, not an independent ego, chooses what objects we shall seek, whether by reasoned will or unreflecting impulse, at any moment of our existence. Another way of understanding this also is nature is moving everything. Nature is moving the wind, nature is moving the tides, nature is making the tree grow. But the tree does not think that I am growing because it doesn't have an ego. But because we have an ego, nature is also making animals move and also human beings move. But we have an ego, so we think that I am doing all this. That's an illusion. Okay? Just as nature is making the tree grow, it is also making you think, will, and act. Okay? So that's the truth. Nature, not an independent ego, chooses what object we shall seek, whether by reasoned will or unreflecting impulse, at any moment of our existence. I think we'll stop here today. We'll continue next time. Okay, everybody,
Over Rangada.
everyone, have a nice day. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Amrita.
Okay, everyone.